Hi, I'm O for YouTube videos. I am a feminist and a lesbian, and usually I make conversational commentary videos about both of those things. Today, instead, though, I would like to talk about something that I have been buried deep in private Facebook groups about for about the last 2 years. People who already know me and watch my videos already know this about me, but I am in so many Mandela Effect Facebook groups. You watching this, of course, probably already know what the Mandela Effect is. It is pretty ubiquitous at this point. So while I won't be going into an entire history lesson, I will say, in and of itself, I've always thought it was pretty interesting that a bunch of, let's face it, primarily white people misremembering something because they weren't really clued into what was going on in South Africa, and then that ending up being like what is primarily remembered with the name Nelson Mandela, even though he was like an anti-apartheid activist and a politician and the first president of South Africa. A bunch of people assumed that he had died in prison in the 80s and have formed varyingly central parts of their worldview around that misremembering of things. So again, the Mandela Effect doesn't actually have anything to do with Nelson Mandela himself, just how defensive people are of their recollection of Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 80s. When he passed away for real in 2013, people were surprised, stunned even, including the woman who invented the term Mandela Effect in the first place. Her name is Fiona Broom. I found her website, and I would love to look at it together with you, because as you can tell, she's like a ghost hunter, a paranormal investigator. She's described as like a writer and researcher. She's a ghost lady. I think that this little icon that pops up with the tab is really cute with like the little ghost. It's cute. It's also not like serious. We're all just kind of like playing in this space with her, with this lady who invented the term Mandela Effect and began to research this, which, sure, I support women's rights and women's wrongs, I guess. But also that's wild, because this is 2013 when she coined this. 2013, that's like 11 years ago. I'm sure people had like broad-scale misrememberings of things. Some things that are brought out as Mandela effects surely had already been argued about before. But like, this whole thing has only even ever had a name for like 11 years now. Fiona also has a YouTube channel. I did not do the full deep dive and watch all of her videos, though. There really aren't that many, and they aren't that long, so if you would like me to, let me know in the comments, and we definitely can do another Mandela Effect video. What I wanted to do in this one instead is I made you a little presentation, a little slideshow of some of the things that I have seen and that I think about the most ever since I started joining whichever Mandela Effect Facebook group recommended itself to me. This is probably pretty obvious. I don't think the Mandela Effect is real. I think the human mind is very prone to failures and gaps in memory, and it just uses logic to fill things in when it maybe shouldn't. I'm also very aware, and we'll discuss a bit more later, even though this is not like a big, deep, serious topic that I have done research on. It's just my own viewpoint on what I have seen. I think a lot of people who believe in this conspiracy theory, or who begin to believe in conspiracy theories based on this one, are very often in a pipeline to believing in much more harmful shit. That is just kind of an unfortunate reality of engaging with conspiratorial thinking. It does make you more susceptible to imagining other conspiracy viewpoints. And I am not immune to conspiratorial thinking. I've even made videos about a conspiracy theory that I buy into with varying amounts of seriousness before, that Taylor Swift may have written some of her songs about women, but even that entry-level, like, basic conspiracy theory, I do notice sometimes leads people who believe the same things that I do about certain things to, like, make wild conjectures about other things that I don't agree with and that just seem really far-fetched. They might have the same interpretation of Maroon and Cornelia Street as I do, but they're also making some pretty wild conjectures for, like, why Taylor Swift is besties with MAGA people all of a sudden, you know, and trust me, I'd like for it to be the case that this is a big performance art thing, but, you know, let's not get carried away here. This is not another Gaylor video, though I probably will be making another one soon. I still have a couple ideas kicking around. But I do just always find it interesting to look into conspiracy theories and how people who buy into them speak about them. And while I'm not saying that this one never gets anti-Semitic, most conspiracy theories do eventually, a lot of people who are, like, giving base entry-level sympathy to the idea of this Mandela Effect conspiracy aren't doing it because they're weird bigots usually. It's more because they're, like, not sure where else they would have learned the word cornucopia if there wasn't one on the Fruit of the Loom logo. So yeah, I have divided up some of my favorite posts for you from the 2 years that I have spent in these groups. We're not dissecting and debunking, we're laughing at these people. That's an okay thing to do when what somebody believes is silly, and especially when it's silly in a way that escalates very often into much less silly and much more harmful conspiratorial thinking. And obviously they do sometimes discuss the actual Nelson Mandela of it all, but that is less funny to me. So I have much fewer screenshots collected of that and much less interest in lingering on it. Instead, I would like to open up this video by discussing what they refer to in these groups as personal Mandela effects. You may be asking yourself, but oh, for YouTube videos, I thought a Mandela effect was a widespread false memory. How can there be a personal Mandela effect? And to that, I say, it's not. It's because it's not. It's because it's literally not a Mandela effect. It's just them being wrong. It's just them being wrong about things, and they still call it a Mandela effect anyway. Example number 1. My personal examples of the Mandela effect. My wife remembers our teenage years together, us doing things we never did. My best friend Bobby remembers me with a broken arm. I never had a broken arm. She did, but swears she never did growing up. One of my best friends growing up doesn't remember me. I do think one of my best friends growing up doesn't remember me is very funny. I think it's possible to forget people who weren't as close to you as you might have thought you were close to them. Just in general, I appreciate the way this one's built. It tickles the brain. Like, what does it mean? What does the wife remember that he doesn't remember? Why is he so sure he remembers better than his friend Bobby with an eye who broke their arm as a child? And people are very sure that they have very specific memories of things in other people's lives that it makes a lot of sense that they simply would not remember. Example number 2. Personal Mandela effect. A family I've been close with my entire life has a different spelling of their last name now, upside down smiley face. Berenstein Bears all over again. And they get very, very, like, defensive. There was this one that I thought was very funny. There was also a thread of her telling the person in question, "What? No, I didn't think this is when your birthday was." I'm seriously freaking out right now. I knew for sure her birthday was in March. For a few years, the time that I've known her, it has been March. And now this year, it's a whole different month. My heart is racing. This is crazy. Which actually leads me into the second category that I have prepared after personal Mandela effects, which is, no, dude, you're just wrong. We're gonna open up with my favorite one here, actually. So this one gets a lot of playtime in my mind. A lot of people were split on this one. Half as many people, I would say, agreed with the OP that this was their recollection of 101 Dalmatians. And a few people admitted that they didn't. But even when one of the admins in the group was saying she didn't remember it this way, she was like, oh, I feel left out, and not, you guys are wrong. Oh my god, just found out about this one. I have crystal clear, vivid memory that she wore a black and white spotted coat. And it is, of course, an image of Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians, a movie where the entire plot was that she wanted the Dalmatians to make a coat. So why would she have, why would she have a coat with Dalmatians on it? What would the movie be about? But no, people agree with her in these groups because they're self-selected for people who will agree with you when you posted them. Yes, her coat looked like a Dalmatian hide she wore. She was keeping Dalmatians to get their skins and make more coats out of them that she could sell. Oh my,
Looking at that movie again, how horrible it is called a children's cartoon with the subject material. So as you can see from that comment section, they are also very regularly upset when something that they remember is like bleaker than they would think a children's movie should be. That seems like evidence to them that things have been snuck in without their permission. Another thing that they use as evidence is just anything they didn't already know about, like one of the Hemsworth brothers, the one that's not famous, he popped up. New timeline for sure, for sure. I always thought that Chris Hemsworth had only one brother, Liam Hemsworth, but now a third Hemsworth brother appeared. Luke Hemsworth, he is an actor too. I never heard of him before, ... Yeah, man, they were making jokes on The Good Place about this. It doesn't mean there's a parallel timeline. You might think that one's weird, but it's really actually not, because they post shit like that in these groups all the time. Here's one where someone thinks that the fact that they had never seen The Sandlot means Mandela Effect somehow. I've never seen The Sandlot either, but I mean, I guess since I at least knew it existed because it used to play on ABC Family or whatever, I was not in this timeline switchery. And for the most part, this all still seems pretty harmless, but like, people do take this very far. Or at least they act in the Facebook groups as if they do. Like, I don't know if this one lady ever actually followed through on it, but in one of the groups, someone was very convinced that she had come from a timeline where an unsolved murder case from the 80s was solved, and talked about, like, sending an email to the police to tell them how it had been solved in her timeline of origin. That's something they say. They say timeline of origin, where I'm from, anything to explain like why they remember different things than other people remember. And that's wild. That is so funny to me. Like, it's so funny to me, but also, oh my god. And everyone in these groups is just soaking in their own distortion and thinking that they should encourage each other to do that kind of thing and that they're right about the way that they remember things. It is wild. And the kind of things that they use as proof, too, is also very wild and funny. Like, they call this residue. It's residue being left behind from, like, being switched to a different timeline, I guess. So anything that they think backs up their theory that everything in the world changes, or certain things in the world change whenever Kern fires up the Hadron Collider, or whatever it is that they think is causing the Mandela Effect, they post things like just that a new sea creature that they didn't know about before has been discovered, or sometimes even just posted about, that very much was known about before. Or, and this one is a little bit long, but bear with me because it is one of my favorites, but the way that something is spelled. Okay, when did the spelling of vacuum change? It's always been vacuum for me. Today it's vacuum all of a sudden. I find so many of these comments offensive. You lack emotional intelligence and are apparently incapable of having an adult discussion outside your box by insulting sometime else's intelligence or spelling capabilities. Just because I post this on here doesn't mean that my entire life's writings have been filled with spelling errors. Please reread the group rules. If you're incapable of abiding by them, then you should leave this group. Or the lyrics to Africa by Toto. No. I don't care about that song you posted. It's not the lyrics I know to Africa. I'm 100 emoji certain he said, I kissed the rains down in Africa. Africa? Toto? Definitely not. He said, I kissed the rains down in Africa. Or the way that they jump on anything else they can find that misspells somebody's name the same way that they did. Like, that's not even an actual cover. That's like an Amazon... That's like an Amazon-generated thing from somebody who didn't type in the name right. They share Far Side cartoons and say, this is what it's like where I'm from. With where I'm from meaning, of course, the timeline that they think that they were in, that they remember these memories from. And then they make these wild conjectures not noticing that brands did different spellings. Like this one about Funyuns, and there's also regularly the same deal, but about Fruit Loops. It's spelled like Fruit Loops so that they could put, like, the loops. It makes sense. I hadn't noticed it, but it makes sense. Oh no. I just had these like a month ago. They did not have a Y. I remember looking at them. Didn't see a Y. Never saw a Y. So I feel like I died in a different timeline, and that me from that timeline merged with this me from this one, or vice versa, and now I'm remembering the old timeline. I've been formulating this theory about why it's happening. I think quantum physics, Everett's many worlds interpretation, and the first law of thermodynamics is where the answers are. What? You just didn't know how to spell Funyun, actually. Like, to go from I didn't know how to spell Funyun to I think I died and I merged with my other timeline. What are we talking about? What are we ever even saying? And I think once you're in deep enough that rather than Googling and trusting what Google tells you when you want to fact check something, you're asking people who are just going to agree with you, you're in what I kind of think of as like the endless self-validation of conspiracy. Like, you can see it in the way that they talk to each other about all of this. There's this real defensiveness in them, even over things like thinking that it was Sinbad in Kazam. And I feel kind of torn about it sometimes because on the one hand, like, who is it really hurting if this person thinks that? But then also, on the other hand, who gets hurt? Who does it then hurt if they make the same conjectures that a lot of the other people who are validating their assumptions that they're making and their delusions about what the world was like and that they remember an alternate timeline? Who are those people hurting? Because those people actually sometimes are like voting for people who are going to use power in a negative way, and not by like changing whether or not Darth Vader actually said, Luke, I am your father, but by like stripping rights away from people. A lot of the Mandela Effect groups that I joined do not allow off-topic or political discussions, but a few that I saw in my suggested feed and joined very much do allow off-topic and political discussions, and oh my god, they are transphobic, racist, misogynistic like you would not believe. And of course they are. Of course they are. This entire thing is based off of validating themselves and others at the expense of everybody else's lived experiences. At taking their own word over any recording or telling of history. An entire worldview based on not knowing how to spell the last name Berenstein and not just being like, oh yeah, I didn't know how to spell that. An entire worldview based on thinking it was Luke, I am your father. I'm definitely not the only infiltrator in this group. There are a lot of them. And even when they try to explain and try to have like a rational conversation about it, even the ways they get shot down are kind of funny to me. Like this one. Not a Mandela effect, but a quick look inside the human mind. Many years ago, I had a dream. In that dream, that song that goes, Ring My Bell, was playing. I spent many years after that remembering the song and thinking it came from my own mind. I had no idea that song actually existed outside of my dream. The human mind can be fooled pretty easily. It can also not remember or remember wrong. So I think a lot of these Mandela effects are not real because the human brain is not perfect. Then factor in all the people on legally prescribed drugs. That garbage is destroying your brain as well as society. Remember how I said sometimes things just like go off the rails? This is even somebody who seems otherwise reasonable. Prescription medication is fine, I promise. Please take your prescription medication. With all that being said, and what I know from my own personal experiences, I came to the conclusion that Mandela effects are 100% real, but not every little tiny thing that you remember differently is a Mandela effect. Like, the way that his reasonable explanation got shut down still makes me giggle, even if I do think that a lot of this rhetoric is troubling. The human mind can create externally what it creates internally. You created the song with your consciousness, and it ripple affected into existence. Good job. It's a great song. Like, are you kidding? That's so good. That's so funny. Good job. It's a great song. And I did just want to do one more of my favorites before I pack up here. What about the Scarecrow in Wizard of Oz is now packing heat? He carries a handgun. Watch the movie again now. He has a gun. Didn't used to be that way. ... He has a gun? What? This innocent child movie? Please tell me you are joking. Yeah, the Scarecrow does have a gun. That's not... He's been packing heat It's just the way it's been. I don't have like a larger thesis or more research that I've done for this one because it's actually my birthday. Well, not while I'm filming, and maybe not while you're watching it unless you watch it the day that I upload, but maybe that's a Mandela effect because when it was uploaded on July 21st, it was my birthday. I wanted to spend time on my birthday with all of my friends here in the Nuance Corner because I love you all very much, and there are 3,200 of us all of a sudden, which is absolutely wild and so exciting. And I'm 26. I'm 25 right now, but as of the time this goes live, I will be 26. I just wanted to make something a little bit more lighthearted and also get a chance to hang out with all of you on my birthday. I would love to know what you think. If you want a big, deep researched Mandela Effect deep dive from me, if there are other conspiracy theories that you find interesting and would like me to look into. I already mentioned this, but the one that does still genuinely get me is the Fruit of the Loom one. I don't know where else I would have learned the word cornucopia. But yeah, the Mandela Effect is not real. If you would like more videos from me, you can subscribe to my Patreon where I put out extra videos every month. If you'd like to give me a one-time donation or birthday present, I do have coffee. And if you'd like to donate directly to making sure that I get to keep my housing, I have a GoFundMe situation linked in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. I can't wait to see how many of us are here this time next year.